Would you mind taking a small step forward, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Oh, my Irish had to get even bigger?
If you can just talk a little bit about, obviously Coach Caldwell, this is her first extensive time, being out, sort of meeting the public, meeting the fans, talk a little bit about, you as an athletic director, sort of the importance of these types of events, particularly for a coach who's coming in brand new.
Yeah, we're all excited to come to Nashville for the Big Orange Caravan, but it'll be fun to see Kim interacting with our fans for the first time. I told her she's going to see firsthand we have the best fan base in sports, and their passion always comes through at these events.
How has she sort of acclimated herself to that, coming from a program like Marshall, coming to the Lady Vols, a national brand, really an international brand, but how has she, adjusted to that, adapted to it?
No question. It's an iconic brand. We all understand that. I've been really impressed how she's hit the ground running, recruiting and building a staff at the same time, while also building relationships with our players and existing staff. They've made a big impression already. I've had a chance to stop in the gym a little bit and just see our players having a good time and getting to know each other, which obviously is so important.
Danny, how much better has Nashville got for you guys since you've been here in terms of kind of establishing your footprint back in here the way you want to, with this town kind of evolving the way it has the last couple of decades?
I hope it's gotten a lot better. And I hear about, back in the day, and y'all hear me talk a lot about when we were the best version of ourselves and how do we get this brand back to the top of college sports. And Nashville was really orange, and I think it's a lot more orange than it was a few years ago, but I think we got a lot more work to do. It's an important market for us. It's a growing market, as is Knoxville and the whole state of Tennessee, but we're going to be very intentional about putting our big orange flag in Nashville every time we get an opportunity, and that's what today's all about.
I think there was a football game last year. Basketball's played here. I mean, how does that manifest itself for you when it comes to this city?
No question. Because of the population growth, there's a growing amount of talented young student athletes. There's a growing alumni base for us. Our university is exploding in terms of applications, and as a result, we're putting out more graduates, and a lot of them are right here in the mid-state. So it'll always be a priority for us, and we're excited to be here.
Do you feel like the success of the athletic department gets those applications for students to come to school?
Yeah, I think that's why universities make the decision to have high-level Division I athletics, and we're competing in the toughest conference in America. But college athletics done right can be a really powerful marketing engine for a university. I think it's why our system of higher ed is the best in the world. We're the only country in the world that has this thing called college sports. It's pretty precious, and we're seeing at Tennessee it can be a really, really powerful marketing engine. And we're proud of the success we're having across the board in all sports.
Danny, from the time you took this job till now, how much has the landscape changed in terms of fundraising, NIL versus facilities, and I'm just curious. We know how it is for coaches, but what's that like for an AD when you're going through all that?
It's in my chair, everything's important all the time, and it has to be. All 20 of our sports are important. NIL is important. Building buildings is important. We have $499 million worth of capital projects going on right now. It's all important, but we have a generous donor base. We have great high-end top leadership donors. We have an enormous amount of fans. We're going to announce tomorrow our stadium sold out again with 15,000 strong on the waiting list. While people around the country are trying to figure out how to make their stadiums smaller, we're 102,000 strong and sold out for the season. So we're fortunate at Tennessee to have what I believe to be the best fan base in sport. We could prioritize everything, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Danny, there's a lot of talk the last 48 hours about maybe the NCAA trying to reach a settlement in the case out in California with potential revenue share being as a settlement to that. Where do you think big picture ADs are with revenue share moving forward? I know that's not a black or white, there's a lot of variables to it, but where do you think you guys are, particularly the SEC and the Big Ten, leading the way when it comes to revenue share?
Yeah, I figured I may get that question. I was thinking about that on the way here today. I liken it to if I had a crack in my foundation at my house. I think it's unfortunate over the last couple decades just watching this thing play out. We've several times tried to put some spackle on the crack and maybe hope somebody else solves it in the future. And we got to stop doing that. And I hope that we really take a deep look and solve this thing with some real real structural issues. We obviously have some legal issues in college sports. There are real solutions, and we need to sprint to them as quickly as possible. At Tennessee, we're always going to do right by student athletes, and there's ways to do right by student athletes and get this thing organized, because it's a little bit out of control right now, as we all realize.
Do you feel like the sprint is starting to really, there's more urgency than there's ever been?
I hope so. I think there's people in critical leadership positions in college sports that didn't act over the last couple decades, and I hope that they do now.
How much do you think the SEC will end up driving that in terms of where this is headed and what the solution would be?
They're complex issues. Obviously, we are one conference amongst many, but we certainly have probably the biggest voice, if not one of the just a couple biggest voices. But we need strong leadership right now across the country in college sports. We got to find a more stable environment that allows kids to experience what I think is really special. I talked about earlier the value of college sports. It's so valuable from a university's perspective and alumni's perspective, but it is so valuable from a student athlete experience perspective. These kids, we had our Rocky Top Royale last night. It's our celebration where we give awards to all of our student athletes. We talk about graduation rates. We talk about how great they're doing in the classroom, their leadership with their teams, the experience they get on a campus in developing and making the most of themselves as a person, as a student, as an athlete. It's magical. It's really powerful. And if we don't get this thing organized, we could do some damage to what I think is a pretty special environment.
We'll take two more.
Yeah, end of the month, you go to the SEC meetings, and I know there's meetings prior to. Do you think the league's going to kind of kick the schedule down the road again, or do you think this is the year where it's decided whether it's 8 or 9 games?
You talking football?
Yeah.
I think we were getting close to the point where we need to make some decisions. To be perfectly honest with you, we got so many other bigger issues. I hadn't really thought about that one most recently. I know our fans would love to know. I'm excited in any iteration of this new football conference. And it's, adding 2 is one thing, and they're 2 big-time brands, but just playing everyone more frequently by getting rid of the divisions and having much more diversity in the schedule, whether it's 8 or 9, we'll get home and away in a 4-year period with everybody in the league from a fan experience, student-athlete experience. I think it's going to be awesome, and I can't wait.
You started 2023 football here in Nashville. Is there plans to come back to Nashville?
Nashville's always going to be a priority for us. We've had neutral site games where we've had some gaps in our schedule. We had a kind of last-minute gap that it worked out to play Virginia here last year, and it'll always be a high priority for us if we have an opportunity to move a game in any sport to Nashville. But our priority is going to continue to be games in Neyland when we can, so balancing those things. But do I think there'll be opportunities in the future where we have some abnormalities happen in our schedule? Probably so.
Danny, thank you.